No, that's all right. I got it. I got it. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Region 1, 2, and 4 webinar this morning. I'm Rusty Dowling. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association, and we want to welcome you to this. This is these are one of our regular region webinars, but what is interesting about this is that we have combined the three regions, Regions 1, 2, and 4. So I see everybody that's registered is clicking on in the participants. I would encourage you to make sure that if you're viewing this to go ahead and sign in so that we know who is viewing this webinar this morning. And if you have any questions, you may do that through the chat room when you see down below. So again, anybody that is watching this today, please go ahead and sign in. And if you have any questions, you may send it in via the chat room. We'd like to go ahead and start this morning with some of our sponsors. THSADA is very fortunate. We've got a lot of terrific sponsors that support what athletic administrators around the state of Texas do. They're very important to the operation of the association, and they're very important to athletic directors. And we've asked them to join our webinar and take a few minutes to talk to you about their services and products and the things they can do for athletic administrators around the state of Texas. So it's my pleasure this morning to go ahead and start with Bill Danahauer, who is with Sideline Power. So Bill, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you there, Rusty. I appreciate it. It's good to have everybody here and see everybody, and I'm glad. I hope everybody's doing well and getting the processes all done and all that stuff. So just want to let you know we have a lot of specials going on through the month of July. Laser downs, headsets through the 4th of July. The used headsets are through the 4th of July. And we've got reconditioning going through the whole month of July. So please look us up and get a hold of us and let us help you. And if the laser downs will have special through the season. And then also, we also got some specials with our drones and our end zones. So if there's any way we can help you, I know you guys are all trying to fight through things and everything, and we wish you well. If there's anything we can help you with, don't hesitate to give us a call at Sideline Power or email us. Thank you.
All right, Bill, thank you very much. And again, Sideline Power has been a sponsor of the THSADA for a few years, and we really appreciate Bill making the time to be with us this morning. So again, thanks a lot, Bill. We appreciate you being here. And now we want to turn it over to another great sponsor, Brock USA, and Amy Champion's here with us this morning. So Amy, the floor is yours.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm in New Orleans today, and it is pouring rain. And actually here in my condo unit, they're testing the fire alarm. So if for some reason you hear a fire alarm going off, don't panic. We all don't have to clear the room. They're just running some tests. So I hope everybody's doing great today. I feel very fortunate to be a sponsor of the THSADA. We've been a longtime sponsor of your organization, and we take a lot of pride in that. And for those of you that are not familiar with Brock is a shock pad company. We've been around for a little over 20 years. We're based in Boulder, Colorado. We are kind of known as the field safety guys. So when you start talking about artificial turf systems for your athletes and for your facilities, as of today, safety has become more of a conversation. And school districts across the state of Texas have become a lot more aware of safety and a lot more concerned about their athletes and their injuries, and particularly concussions. So this is kind of where we come in. We work with all of the turf groups across the country. We are totally turf neutral. We work with Phil Turf, Hellas, Paragon, Shaw, Symmetry, all of those groups that do a lot of work within your districts, providing the underlayment for your turf fields, for soccer, for football, even now for baseball and softball. There are three things that you keep in mind as you move forward when you start to upgrade your facilities and convert those natural grass fields to turf. There's three impacts of safety. You need to keep in mind that impact really is, head to surface, hip to surface, body to surface impacts, very important. And how a shock pad actually works is once that athlete makes contact with the surface, it goes below the turf, the shock pad absorbs that force, and it doesn't come back into the athlete's body. So therefore decreasing your injuries well below 10%. So the other part to think about too on turf fields is heat. You know, here in the state of Texas, or in the state of Texas, obviously those synthetic turf fields can get to anywhere from 165 to 170. We have a material in the market now called Brock Fill. We have over 35 fields in the state of Texas that have this material. This material totally replaces the black crumb rubber that carries majority of the heat in turf fields. I'd be glad to talk about that with you individually and kind of share with you the districts we're currently working with that have Brock Fill in their fields. But it will decrease the heat on your field about 35 to 40 degrees. It's been a great product for us, and we've done a lot of work in the state. Lastly is traction. So when you talk about how your turf fields actually perform, footing and traction are extremely important. Having that shock pad gives still the firmness of the field for your athlete, and how it feels underfoot's pretty consistent. So really it's just important to think about several of those things as you move forward, instead of just moving forward and saying, hey, we're going to do a turf field and kind of throw this turf down on some rock. Think about, as you move forward, those safety factors, safety features, and allow Brock or myself to come in, at least sit down and visit with you about the benefits of having a shock pad. Not to mention, you know, you can only imagine how much more turf life that you're going to get out of your field when you have that underlayment, that separator. We guarantee 2 to 3 more years of turf life. So a typical 8-year field now lasts 11 to 12 years. So definitely something to think about. My cell phone number, my email address, I'll get that through THSADA. It's listed on their website. I wish all of you the best. I know these times are extremely hard for everyone, in particular your kids who really want to be back with you. I'm a former college administrator and coach of 22 years, so I understand the importance of kids being with coaches and coaches being with kids. So on behalf of Brock and our sponsorship and who we are and what we do and how much we enjoy you guys, I wish all of you the very best going forward. And please let us know if we can assist you in any way.
Very good. Thank you, Amy. We appreciate you being here with us this morning, as well as with Bill. So we're very appreciative of all of our THSADA sponsors. We've got over 50 people on this webinar right now, so that's a very good attendance right there. So I know everybody's interested in the content of this webinar today. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Region 1 Director, who's also the Director of Athletics, Lubbock ISD. I am turning this over to Mike Meeks.
Thank you, Rusty. Appreciate that. Thank you to Bob also for working with us and setting up these webinars. These have been very instrumental in what we're doing, and absolutely, you know, want to commend the THSADA for having this communication platform. And Rusty, I think back to our December board meeting, and you know, who knew we were going to be where we are today, you know, during that time. But I can remember in that meeting, and I think if I'm not mistaken, but I think as Brenda Marshall said, how can we share information, you know, within all the regions? And you know, we met June 22nd, and we went Facebook Live to try to share information. And look, you know, again, look where we are, you know, with COVID-19. Everybody's become an expert in Zoom, and just keeping up with all the critical components to navigate the athletic regulations that we've had from the UIL. You know, I can't commend you guys enough for the meetings that we've been in, the collaboration, and to be able to keep up with what's happening in the state of in our country, you know, with the COVID-19. You know, it's June 24th. Our goal is to play fall sports on time. We've all put in action plans for COVID-19 to operate. We've had several closures, you know, in the state of Texas with SAC and SSI camps. But you know, here we are. We're staring the fall right in the face. So we look forward to hearing from everybody today. Before we get rolling, we're gonna operate in order of Region 1, Region 2, and Region 4. But I want to give an opportunity to introduce our panelists before we get going. So from Region 1, from Seminole ISD, Ty Palmer head football coach, is here with us today. And then also from Canyon ISD, athletic director Toby Tucker is here today. So now I'll turn it over to Phil Blue and let him introduce his guys.
Thank you, Mike. I want to say to Rusty and Bob, thanks again for allowing this platform. We've got some great topics to discuss, and I learned early in my career that the bigger the decisions, the more collaboration you need, and we're all facing some very, very large decisions. And so I'm excited to hear from a lot of very talented and smart people on this webinar what their ideas are. So I want to introduce our panelists from Region 2, and you guys can just wave as I call your name. Scott Hafley is the Director of Athletics for Wichita Falls ISD. Scott, we appreciate you taking the time to visit with us today. And then Jared Womack from Stephenville ISD. Thank you, Jared, for lending your expertise today. And I will turn it over to Maria.
Good morning, everybody. Bob, Rusty, thank you. And Bill, Amy, thank you guys for being here with us this morning. And as Mike said, who'd have thunk that, you know, a year ago we'd be facing what we're facing right now. So thank you all for all the information and all the knowledge that I've gained from all of these webinars and Zoom meetings and everything that we've done the last couple of months. But I'd like to thank my two panelists, Region 4. You know, we extend way out, you know, from El Paso all the way to Wink and Alpine and Fort Stockton. And I've tried really hard to include the little folk, as I like to call them, since I grew up in Van Horn, I can say that with love. And so I am just so appreciative that they were willing, that Coach Peters from Fort Stockton and Coach John Fellows from Alpine. And in fact, Coach Fellows has just hired my daughter to coach this coming year. So I'm really excited about that. She's had the bug for a few years, and her girls are just now old enough that she's going to be able to do that. So I invited her to come to this webinar. I don't know if she ever got in, but I'm just really thrilled and thankful to Coach Fellows for giving her an opportunity. So I'm going to turn it back over to Mike. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that, and appreciate everyone being on the call today. Also want to introduce Max Catwinkle, Athletic Director from Lubbock Cooper ISD. Max is going to be the new Region 1 Director. Rusty, I don't know, is this my last official duty as Region Director? I don't know if that's the case or not, but Max will be taking over for Region 1 as we move forward. And after our two panelists go, we'll also hear from Max to give a report from Lubbock Cooper ISD as well. So let's get into it. So first up from Seminole ISD is Ty Palmer. So Ty, you know, let's you know, this whole thing is going to be centered around SAC and fall planning. You know, but let's talk about what's going on in Seminole ISD. Discuss your operating procedures for SAC and SSI, and what's working for you and what's not.
Well, thanks for having us on here. You know, we're kind of a unique deal in that we've got some indoor. We've got two different turf rooms indoors, and then of course football field and all those things. And so we're just like anybody else. We've taped spots on the sidewalks, and they show up and stand on their little tape spot, and we take temperature before they come in the door, you know, and that first day we had them all fill out a COVID screening form and have all those on file. And then we've been very blessed that we haven't had any temperatures we've had to deal with, or knock on wood, any cases that have involved our kids. And so we've been very fortunate there. But, you know, we take their temperature when they come into our big turf room every morning, and then we line them up down the hash. And we put, you know, every two yards, that way we're keep our 6 foot. And then we break them out from there to go to wherever they're going. We're running several sessions just to keep our UIL numbers and keep all the regulations in play. And so we run a 7:30 to 9 group that's just our 10th and 12th graders, and we run 2 groups within that deal. And then we run another group of 10th through 12th graders through at 10:30 to noon. And again, there's 2 groups in that. And then we run our junior high through at 6 to 7 p.m. And we run 4 different groups, you know, of 20 to 25 there. And then we run our 9th graders through at 7 to 8 p.m. And there's 3 groups in there. So we had to move our ninth graders to their own deal because we've got a really, really big ninth grade class. I mean, big for us. Some of y'all think it's little, but we've got about 75, 80 kids coming into the high school athletics out of a ninth grade class, which for our school is a pretty good number. And so we run those different sessions. We sandwich skills in there. And so we'll scan them in, and then group one, you're going to the field. Group two, you're going to the weight room. We've moved our weight room from the weight room at the field house into the littler turf room we've got. That way we can keep distancing and keep our spacing and do all those things. And we keep them 2 kids to a rack. That they lift with the same kid. If their partner's gone for the day, we don't substitute those racks. We don't substitute those groups. We don't do any of that. That way, if God forbid one of them was to get it, we know who was or wasn't exposed and who we need to quarantine. We've got a sanitizing station set up at each rack as far as Country Bumpkins, we took a bunch of chairs and set them up at each rack, and we've got the spray stuff our trainers got us, and the little gym wipes and hand sanitizer and everything else. And every time they lift, they go over and sanitize themselves, and we sanitize the rack, and the next kid lifts, and so on all the way through. And while one group's in there, we've got the group on the field doing, whatever it is for the day and their groups. And then we flip those two. One will go to the field and the other will come into the weight room with our older kids. And so when they're on the field going through their agilities, they're split into groups, and each coach has his group. Normally we were just like anybody. You run mat drills the whole time, and the kids rotate through you, into whatever station they're going to next. And we send our coaches with our kids. That way, if one of them's exposed, now we don't have to quarantine every kid because they could have been exposed to that coach. And so we try to keep our groups together from start to finish. And if, God forbid, we got 10 in a group out there and 9 of them don't show up, well, that coach is one-on-one going through L drill or whatever it is with that kid. We don't mix them just for God. Like I said, if something was to happen, we don't have to send those kids out. Our girls kind of do the same thing. There's not as many, obviously, we're dealing with about 160, 170, 9 through 12 at the high school, and then about 120 junior high kids. And so the girls' numbers are a little smaller than that. And so they're running one session for the high school and one for the junior high. And our boys and girls work out completely separate. Our girls are at the high school and our boys are at the field house because our facilities are detached. That way, if one group was to have something happen, then the other side is still in theory okay. And so they go through those times. Our workouts are nothing revolutionary. We do some stuff that our strength coach Michael Mann kind of brought into us called it's APRE. It's auto-regulated progressive resistance exercise, and I have to write it down because I never remember that. I ain't smart enough. But it's very prescriptive. And as far as if a kid doesn't get his reps, he cuts back weight, and there's a whole big science behind it. But we were worried. We weren't naive enough to think our kids went from March 12th to June 8th and did a whole lot. We had Zooms and sent out workouts and all that, but we didn't want to come in and smoke them. Our goal is to have them healthy and able August 3rd, not, June 24th. And it's not about being primed right now. So we've been very gradually building into things with everything. We've been emphasizing quality over quantity on all of our conditioning, all of our agility, form running, all of those things. Been very, very hesitant to try to overload them. And so we've got it all prescribed out through the week and how that builds together. And then, so they'll go through that. And then our skill time, we go 9 to 10. Our first workout is set for 7:30 to 9. We normally don't use that full time, but we've allowed plenty of time to sanitize racks and whatever equipment was used. That way we've got it clean for the next group coming in. And then we sandwich those 2 workouts with our skill time in the middle. And so as that group's working, we've got coaches assigned to, if they're a group 3 or 4 guy in that 10:30 to 12, they're checking those kids in temperature wise, lining them up down the hash, keep those kids separated, warm them up, do those things. And then we go out to skills. And that's been the biggest challenge for us is the skills, trying to keep them in when you've got your groups of 10 on the skills. That's hard to do. We're very blessed in that we've got 18 football coaches here, with our junior high guys and our high school coaches. And so we're able to spread those guys out, and we can in theory, got 180 kids you could work right there in your groups. It's been a lot. Everything's on air, football wise, defensively. Coach Meeks, you may be smarter than I am, but I ain't figured out how to coach defense on air yet. So we do a lot of backpedaling, a lot of individual drills, a lot of read steps, a lot of, things like that. Nothing too crazy. If any of you guys have figured out defense on air, I'm all ears. We run routes on air and do all those things and skills, but again, trying to keep them in groups of 10. We keep them grouped by squat max because it's easier on your rotations and all of that. And so once that's done, our groups 1 and 2 guys will leave, and our group 3 and 4 guys, we will have them split to whether they're on the field or the weight room, whatever the case may be. And then basketball goes from 1:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon at the gym. That way the girls are done and out of there and can sanitize and clean and do all those things. And so, like I said, nothing too revolutionary here. We've been blessed with great administration of facilities and enough coaches to spread everything out. And we've got it, with the 2 detached facilities really helps as far as not mixing our guys and girls, and our junior high kids they're separated too, and so it helps with our coaches and our kids and not overloading everybody. But we're running a lot of sessions, and so it's taxing on our coaches. We're there at 6 a.m. and leave at 8:30, 9 o'clock, just trying to make sure we get everybody through. And, it is what it is, but it's what we've got to do for our kids. And we've been very blessed not to have any instances so far. And those of you that do, I feel for you and hope I don't have to call you for advice one day. So if we can do anything for you, or if you want any information on the APRE stuff, which is really cool stuff, it's big science thing that I don't understand, but he does. And so we do it, and it's been phenomenal as far as working our kids back into shape. But that's kind of how we've been doing it here.
Ty, can you speak to attendance? I know in Lubbock ISD, we feel like that we're getting outstanding attendance, and I think everybody – that may be the case across the state, with parents wanting to get kids back out of the house and get them back in the fold. And what about your attendance? Been good compared to other summers past?
Yeah, as far, I think absence makes the heart grow fonder, and we've had better attendance than we've ever had, as crazy as that is. I ran the numbers last night, and out of every workout we've had and the percentage of what could or couldn't be there, our 10 through 12, we're running at 89% so far. And that includes every kid, whether they're just a swimmer or just a basketball or just a football or multi-sport kid, whatever they are, we're at about 89% there. And then our 9th grade, we're at 81%. And then junior high, we're about 67%, which sometimes with those dudes, that's really pretty good numbers for what we've seen in Seminole. That includes our incoming 7th and 8th graders. And so our girls 9 through 12 are running right at 81%, and junior high is running at 78% as far as what could or could not be there based on workouts. So we've seen really good numbers. And, I think, like I said, absence makes the heart grow fonder, and sometimes it's mama wanting to kick them out of the house. It's babysitting for some of them, I think.
Well, good. I appreciate those comments, and we'll move on to Toby. One of the things that I look at, we're just 2.5 weeks in, and, when I evaluate and I look at what we're doing and some of the things that I wish I would have done better is the communication part. I focused hard on our coordinators, our coaches, making sure our action plan was going to be put into place, and that's gone very well, and it has gone very well. But been paying attention. If you pay attention to social media, you might have seen some things that Toby was doing in Canyon ISD, which I think was great stuff. But Toby, I'd like for you to discuss your communication plan with your parents and coaches and athletes, just how you did some of the things that you did in Canyon.
You bet. Good morning. Well, I think if anything that's going to come out of this entire situation that we've been in is we will rethink communication. There's so many meetings that we've had that in the past, we all felt like we had to have it face-to-face, whether that's a meeting like this or whether that's just a simple conversation, in our case with our campus coordinators. So we have really tried to use these, whether it's Zoom, our school tries to block Zoom on the most part, but Google Hangouts or Google Meeting, we use a ton of that stuff. And so as Coach Meeks was saying, as we got close to rolling out summer strength and conditioning, I told our coaches, really, there's a couple things that we got to show. We got to know that our community can trust us, and they got to know that we really have a plan. And then when we come up with that plan, that we're going to stick to it. So as we got ready to roll it out, we knew we had to have some sort of parent meeting. And so we went and set the Google parent meeting up. And I know you guys know it'll hold 250 people. So about halfway, it was supposed to be at 7 o'clock on a night. Well, about 30 minutes before the meeting, we had over 100 people in the meeting room already, and I knew we were in trouble. And so we decided we would broadcast on Twitter live. And so I had my phone set up, leaning on my computer. So I'm broadcasting on Google. I'm broadcasting on Twitter. And what was crazy is we filled up the Google room. And then so people are blasting us on Twitter. Hey, we can't get in. We can't get in. Well, our own people went to our defense saying, hey, they're streaming live on Twitter now. Here's the link. And so in the end, we had a full room on Google. And then we had about 1,000 people watching on Twitter, which was great because we were able to record that meeting. And so to date, over, I think, 2,700 views of our parent meeting. And I can't tell you how many times we've had folks that have called in and said, hey, we watched the parent meeting. I have a question about this. And that's really been beneficial for us. The unique thing that happened during that meeting is we had coaches both in the Google meeting and on Twitter watching. And so this interaction started. Parents started asking questions via Twitter, and our coaches would answer them before I could even answer it. So it was really a great dialogue back and forth. And in Canyon, we make our coaches before their seasons have a parent meeting. And we may rethink that. We'll still have that parent meeting, but we're probably still going to offer it now virtually rather than, hey, you got to come to the gym at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Well, you know what? Mom and dad have worked all day, and the last thing they want to do is run up there for a 10-minute meeting. So again, I think that's this whole situation's allowed us to really rethink how we're going to communicate with folks, rethink how we're going to communicate with our internal people. I can't tell you how many times during this I'll send I have 4 coordinators, and I'll send them a text. Hey, can you jump on a Google call? And we'll jump on it. I like it better than a phone call because we can sort of see each other in the windows. And it prevented everybody from wasting their time to come up for what could be a 5-minute meeting, and we're able to get stuff done. So we were blown away. But Twitter Live, if you haven't done it, you can do it, you can record it, you can post it, and it actually bailed us out on a night that we thought, will anybody show up to this? Well, the answer was they're all going to show up to it. So we really rethought what we did.
Very good. Appreciate that. So how about quick thoughts on fall sports? Planning for fall sports.
Man, I've been on a couple calls with some dudes in this room, and when we think we've got it figured out, we don't. So I'm still an eternal optimist. I believe in good things, and that good things are going to happen. And I got to hope that there's going to be something that sees us through this, or we're going to have a direction to go. But we got a month, and we got to have some planning way before then. I feel like the plan's out there. Just visiting with some folks. I just think yesterday there was a little bit of a hiccup, and it might not have got released. If you guys watched the TEA call, I guess some of their stuff got released a little prematurely. And on that call yesterday, it was all about virtual education, which concerns me. And, you guys may have heard, I don't know what's the answer. Can an athlete or an extracurricular student, hey, I want to be virtual all day at school since they have this, or, at home, and then I can still participate? I need some guidance on that. I'm not sure.
Well, I think we're all expecting guidance, as we get to that point. And I'm sure the UIL doesn't want to release anything just yet in fear they have to change it, the closer that we get. But it is going to be a challenge, when you really take a deep dive into what fall sports look like, with including travel and, COVID-19 cases when they present themselves, how that operates. Might be a year to carry a few more on your team, especially in volleyball and basketball. I don't know. But,
Coach, one thing that our superintendent's done, he's requiring an additional form, and I got my first group of them today, and we don't know what we're going to do on fall travel yet. But anybody that's taking an overnight trip, it's going to be his call, and I don't know where we are as of today.
We don't either, and it's going to be a challenge. I know, just for Friday night football, we're planning on 50% capacity, and we had a staff meeting and been talking about that, and there's some crazy, how you going to do tickets, and I think I think the DECs need to regather and talk about and be consistent within the district on how you're going to limit people into each stadium. But Anyway, Toby, appreciate that. I'm going to kick it over to Max Catwinkle. He'll be the new Region 1 director. Max and I visited yesterday about some thoughts and about some things for fall sports. So Max, if you could just quickly give us some of the things that you're thinking and maybe include some of the things we talked about yesterday, because I think that it's very eye-opening on some of the issues.
You bet. You know, I'm going to keep mine real short, but I just want to say thank you to Mike Meeks, and I think that I speak for everybody in Region 1 for his leadership of the last 2 years. He's done a great job. He does a great job with Lubbock ISD, but he also does a great job for everybody, all of us in Region 1. And Mike, we appreciate everything you've done. And I've got some big shoes to fill, but I'm going to do my best. So Toby kind of touched on the communication aspect of it. And, you know, what I think is really important is that we continue to communicate with each other, everybody in our region and our surrounding regions as athletic directors. I know I talk to Toby and Mike and Scott almost daily, and they probably get sick of my phone calls, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we are doing things the right way and consistent with what everybody else is doing. And I appreciate everybody that'll just pick up the phone and talk to me. And I think we need to continue to do that. We get daily information. Things change on a daily basis. And I think it's important as a professional group that we make sure we're communicating with each other to do the best things for our kids and our coaches. Really just touching on real briefly, all the UIL, the guidelines that they have given us are very definitive and have been really good. I think all the strength and conditioning, the skill-specific sports has gone about as smooth as we could have hoped and imagined. You know, we're going to have flare-ups and we're going to have issues, but the UIL has done a great job and has given us some solid guidelines. What we have had at Lubbock Cooper, what we have been the most confusion and been dealing with, and angry parents and frustrated, you know, community, is the youth camps, which fall under the TEA guidelines, and then your summer leagues and your all that everybody wants to use your facility and we're trying to turn them away. And anyway, those have been more frustrating and time consuming to me than the UIL strength and conditioning and the sports specific. So that's kind of where we're at. Again, I'm going to keep mine short. I know we've got a lot of good information, but I just want to, say just continue to communicate with each other, and appreciate you, Mike, and all you've done for us.
You bet. Thank you, Max. Appreciate that very much. As we continue, I'll fix to kick it over to Region 2, but as we continue to work through COVID-19, I think some of the things that we're learning is that we're gonna have to coexist a little bit. We're gonna have to manage it with the cases that pop up. I visited with my superintendent on Monday and showed her, we had incident reports, the secondhand exposures, close contacts, anybody that's tested positive, and how that relates to our cohorts or small pods and groups. And she made the comment that, this is kind of a precursor to what it's going to look like in the fall, but how do we manage that in school? And I think that's what we're all still waiting on is how we're going to do that. So, but anyway, appreciate everybody in Region 1. Thanks to you guys for being on the panel today. And Phil, it's all yours, baby.
I want to say thanks to Ty, Toby, and Max. That's great information. It's always good to hear confirmation that the things that you're doing, other people are doing and doing well. So thank you guys very much for that. Region 2, our topics are going to deal with some of the things that we kind of segued into, but our preparation essentially for fall sports, football and volleyball. And so for Scott and Jared, there's really 3 parts that we're going to discuss. And if each of you guys will take a minute or two to share your ideas or thoughts with the folks that are on the webinar, that would be great. So the first part it really deals with football. And I've thought about this both from Abilene ISD that has a football stadium that seats, 15,000. But I've also been a head football coach in Class A where our entire stadium seated 300. What are your thoughts about season tickets this fall? Why or why not? Are you planning on doing just all general admission seating? And have you considered ticket limits for your visiting teams and visiting fans? So, Scott, I'll turn this over to you first.
Sure. Well, hey, Phil, thanks for including me on this. Kat and Tucker and I, we met yesterday with District 35 AADs just to talk about this very thing and just get a feel for what each district is saying and doing. And it's probably too early for any of us to say officially what we're going to look like on that first Friday night. But I think starting at 50% capacity and then seeing what happens is probably our best bet. For us, you know, one of the questions that still has to be answered are bands going to travel when you go on the road? Fine arts directors and superintendents, they have some tough decisions to make. You know, out in West Texas, you know, a short bus trip is 2 hours. And so do you want 50 kids on a bus for 4 hours in a single day? And so there's some tough decisions to be made. But as far as season tickets go, we're not going to sell season tickets. We'll sell them on a week-to-week basis. We work with home team ticketing, and Caitlin Morrison, she's been great as far as helping us get prepared for that and setting a limit on our ticket sales. All we have to do is subtract the number of band and drill team members that will be in the stadium, the number of passes that we will allow into the game, and then she can set a limit. And I think yesterday we kind of left our conversation off with, you know, our visitors team should be able to purchase online up until Friday at noon. And then I think right now we would only sell walk-up tickets on the visitor side to our own community. That way the visiting team has all week to purchase the tickets for the folks that are driving in. We would sell them online, but we would only sell them on the visitor's gate for any additional community members that wanted to attend. I will say we did outdoor graduation at Memorial Stadium, which, like you were blessed, holds 14,000 people. It is really difficult to seat people in groups and maintain a 6-foot distance. We had, I believe it was 18 officers just on the east side of the stadium helping us enforce social distancing. So, you know, selling tickets and getting them in the game is one thing, and then keeping them in the social distance atmosphere is a whole nother obstacle. You know, I think about all the kids, the sub-varsity and middle school football players that get into the varsity game for free, and then there's another football game going up on the hill that's usually pretty entertaining. That has to stop this year. We can't allow that. And so we're going to have to make some pretty drastic changes to the way we handle getting people in the stadium. What do you do with concessions? At Memorial Stadium, we can't create a concession line where people stand 6 feet apart. So are we going to sell drinks and candy bars in the stadium? Are we going to go to vendors that walk up and down the aisles and sell there and keep our concession stands closed? We've got questions about restrooms. We had a one-in, one-out policy during graduation. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's a nightmare to try to have a one-in, one-out restroom policy with 2,500 people in the stands. So we've got a lot of things to talk about. And I would say the best thing you can do right now is talk to the other athletic directors in your district and just tell everybody exactly what your superintendent, what your school board, what your district leaders are saying and doing. And so that as a district, you can be on the same page if at all possible.
Thank you, Scott. Coach Womack.
Yeah, no, that was great to hear, and I won't repeat a lot of what Scott just said, but that's a lot of the conversations we're also having. The unique thing about us here at Stephenville is we share Charleston State University, so we play at the university field. So a lot of our communication has been with the protocols that they have going and their expectations. That, you know, one of the issues is the NCAA and the UIL don't align in a lot of ways. So as we get to making those decisions and more information gets rolled out, there's probably going to be a lot of things that contradict each other when it comes to the policies for the NCAA and the UIL. So we're going to have to work through that. But you know, there is going to be definitely an increase in staffing. I think that's one thing that you know, a lot of schools are going to have to prepare for. You know, staffing at a small school. I was at Jim Ned, and really there wasn't any staffing. I had 2 people take tickets, and your superintendent stood on the gate down there, and you know, that was kind of the staffing. And so, you know, looking at adding additional staffing to Friday night stadiums across the state of Texas at your 6-man schools all the way up to your mega schools that are going to have to increase those. And those are things you need to think about right now. While some of us have time to do that before we step into, a lot of ADs are also the head coaches of other sports. And once they step into those sports, it's going to be pretty limited on making these decisions. So now's the time to do that. So I was going to kind of flip back to the first question that was asked, since I'm sure a lot of people are trying to avoid the situation we got into yesterday. So we had 2 positive cases in our athletic department yesterday, and Toby, is great to hear Coach Tucker talk about staying positive, because that's all you got right now. You got to stay positive, right? And so and Coach Palmer, doing a great job of making sure that y'all are doing everything right, and I thought we were too. We had the lines, we had the temperature checks, we had the pre-screenings the night before. We got coaches in the parking lot making sure that when our kids show up that first day and there's 7 kids in a truck, we discourage that day too. Hey, let's make sure we're being smart on how we get here and how we leave. And the challenge is I feel like we're doing a great job for the 2 hours that we're having our kids on campus. It's the other 22 hours you worry about, And so we had we have a community pool like a lot of places do in the state of Texas. And in the summertime, that's a pretty popular place to be. And several of our athletes were working at that pool. And back on the 8th and 9th, they had a training come in to train our lifeguards and CPR. And we found out about 5 days later that whoever had come in to train those kids had tested positive. So we immediately quarantined those kids. And then the city of Stephenville actually had them tested on Monday. And we got our results back yesterday at noon. Our immediate action at that point was, we had already had a preset, group that was going to meet when that moment happened. I think that's important to have a plan for when you get that call, getting your administration team together. And so within 10 minutes, I had my superintendent, high school principal, both trainers, and multiple head coaches in that meeting. And, we talked about the situation that was at hand and where we were at. All workouts had actually ended yesterday when we found this out. So we didn't have any kids or coaches still here at that point. But at that point, we immediately got an email out to all of our coaches. I started with the coaches and let them know that we had positive cases. And then we sent an email out directly to all of our athletes, parents and athletes via email, Remind, and Sports U, whatever our kids are using or our coaches are using. And then, and I'll be honest, the thing that got us here. And, again, I felt like we were doing everything right. I think we've all said, stay in your bubble 6 feet apart about 10,000 times the last 2 weeks. And, but what got us here was our sports specific crossover. So, moving forward, what we're going to do is next sport up is the sport specific you're going to stay in. We're going to try to eliminate some of the crossover situation. Because that's where this really becomes a challenge, is when you have a kid that's a cross-country kid, also plays softball. They're rotating between those sport-specific groups, and now you've had direct contact with multiple groups and those athletes. So the smaller, the better. I liked what Coach Palmer said about, if there's one kid, one coach, that's the group that day. I know we're all anxious to get into bigger group settings and you just can't do it. You got to stay in your small groups, and I think smaller is the better. And at smaller schools, it's challenging because a lot of our athletes play multiple sports, and one sport's just as important as the other one. So where we made our decision on that is next sport up is going to be the sport specific that they stick with. We're going to try to keep that model for the rest of the summer. We are going to start back on Monday. We've identified all the direct contact athletes. They will be quarantined for 14 days, and we'll bring back everyone else. Lost 13 coaches, so we're going to be down to, we're going to have a lot of junior high coaches, and we're going to try to pace this thing together just to get rolling again. But it's something that I don't wish upon anybody having to go through this, and I'm going to have to jump off and go to an admin meeting right now. But it's really important to have that plan in front of you, so when that hits, you can get that administration team meeting quickly via Zoom or whatever that looks like, and have some preset emails already ready to roll out. but that timeline for that communication is very important because it is important. The most important thing we can do right now is keep our kids safe. And the communication piece, when you do have a positive test, you're going to have a lot of people concerned. Did my son or daughter, were they around this person? What does that mean? Obviously you can't share names of who tested positive, and that's a challenge because everybody wants to know if my kid was hanging out with this kid outside of athletics. But that's where we're at, and I appreciate everybody on this Zoom, and y'all just stay positive, like Coach Tucker said. I mean, that's all we got. You got every day is just the day that we're in, and coaches are so used to a calendar, a year-round calendar, a monthly calendar, a weekly calendar, and a daily calendar. Right now, there's really not any calendars. I think that's what's driving us all crazy is we're trying to get through and just get to the next day. And but hey, good to see everybody. Thank y'all, Coach Dowling. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Coach Blue, for having me on today. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Jared. The next part, Scott, that we're going to pose to you and if Jared is not with us, I want Mike Meeks to weigh in on this. So this is what has been a little part of the topic for the fall. It's been keeping me up at night is if we have a capacity for our gyms and our stadiums, how are you going to manage that? And do we still offer passes? Do we allow folks to get into football and volleyball with district passes and employee passes and things like that? I will tell you that we keep track of the number of free passes that get into our football games. And when we play a cross-town game, Abilene High and Abilene Cooper, there's 1,000 people that are in our stadium that got in with a pass. It's the employee passes plus one, then the district pass, and then we have the legacy pass if you're a retired AISD employee, and then we have the senior citizens pass like many of you do. So, Scott, you talked about this briefly, but expand on what is the plan if your gym or your stadium meets capacity, whether that's 50%, 25%. How are you going to turn folks away, or how are you going to decide that? You're going to train your people. Is Scott Hafley going to stand out there with a billy club, and what are your thoughts on passes?
Starts with those 18 police officers when it's time to shut the doors. No, I'll tell you where we're at today. If we were starting football in 2 weeks, we'd be following we're going to honor our senior citizen passes. There'd be anarchy in the streets of Wichita Falls if we took away the senior citizen passes. So those folks are going to get in. We're already making plans to create a separate pass gate where we can keep tabs on the exact number of passes that come into the stadium on either side, and communicate that back to our ticket booth. But on the home side, again, we're not planning on selling walk-up tickets. If you don't purchase your ticket in advance, you're not going to walk up and buy one. The student passes, the sub-varsity football players, the middle school football players, they will be forced to buy a ticket. We will not allow them into the games for free. And then the question mark remains, what do you do with your faculty? We've always allowed our faculty to come in with their faculty ID. And one of the great things about our ticketing software is that you can have a person walk up to the booth and check in with that pass, and we can actually print them a ticket. And so we have the ability to do that on campus. And so we'll set up a station at one of our high schools when they have a home game, and we'll allow the teachers then to go, and if they're going to come to the game, get their free ticket in advance so that we can keep track of that. And that will allow us to set our ticket limit without having to worry about how many teachers may or may not show up this week. And so we can factor that into the number of seats that are allowed under 50% capacity. So, the only people that will be coming into our games with a pass will be our senior citizens, and then anyone who uses a district pass from the visiting school. So we're going to take the steps necessary to try to limit the number of passes. We want to allow our teachers to get in for free. That's obviously a big perk for them to be able to do that. But we're just going to ask them to simply get a ticket in advance by using their pass on campus. And so we'll set that up for them. But no doubt there's going to be some challenges involved when you reach 50% capacity and you have to turn people away. It'll take a few weeks. And, I can also foresee it where, just like with our summer strength and conditioning, we all spent 2 weeks coming up with very strict guidelines, And on the second day of workouts, we got new guidelines that allowed a little bit more leniency. So we may put some pretty strict measures in place, and by the middle of September, things have relaxed a little bit more. So I think just like everybody else has said, we're going to have to continue to be very flexible. We'll put some rules, some policies in place. We'll go to work. And then if those policies and rules are able to change and relax, we'll get more people in the stadium to see the games.
This ball of twine, I'm fixing to ask Mike Meeks. He had a great idea about the employee passes. But, you know, while we have a large stadium, and Scott, you guys have a large stadium, I'm still concerned about the folks in Anson who seat 300, and they're at capacity every week because everybody in town is at the games. And what alternatives, you know, can be offered to those smaller venues. If I was the AD at one of those small schools, this would cause me grief trying to figure this out, because you are going to have to turn people away. And even at our stadiums, we're going to have some games where our board members who typically may show up 20 minutes after kickoff, the flexibility part of, hey, we're at capacity, you know, we're still going to let you in. But I can see at a smaller school that happening, and before you know it, there's a packed stadium again, you know. And so, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you. Get your thoughts.
Well, that is there's many challenges involved in Lubbock ISD. We do not sell online tickets. We still do it old school, do pre-sale at the school for the parents and the students. We sell in the athletic office, and then we sell, you know, obviously at the gate. We had considered the option of, look, we're going to print X amount of tickets, you know, 50%. Our stadium holds 8,500. Our 50% would be 4,250. So we're going to split that down the middle, and east side, west side. We thought about, you know, having 2 color coded tickets for each side to try to space everybody out. You know, how do you account for the band? I think the band should count if they're in the spectator, if they're in the grandstands. We are not planning at this time. We could be directed another direction. We're not counting players, coaches, and officials in our capacity, unless we're told to do so, if that directive comes out. But, you know, we talked about everybody has to have a ticket. You know, we'll have the ticket, we'll sell them, and then we'll have the rest of them at the ticket office. If you come with an employee badge, you got to go to the ticket office to get a ticket. When we're out of tickets, we're out of tickets. You know, and that goes for THSADA passes, district passes, you know, but you're exactly right, Phil. You're going to turn some folks away, and we it's going to be difficult to do that. So we've also landed on another option of, because we not do online tickets, doing turnstile, you know, just like you walk through the gate, and that turnstile clicks the number. You got your ads, then you got your subtractions. You know, get your number for each gate, and when you hit that number, then we're closing. You know, we're gonna shut her down. We've talked about turnstile. We do not have any turnstiles to offer right now. So, you know, that's going to be an equipment purchase, and don't know if that's exactly what we're going to do. But at some point in time, you know, the challenge is somebody is going to have to make the call on when to shut the gates, and because when we play our inner city games with Coronado and Monterey, we're going to hit 50% pretty quick. And so I think no matter what you do, no matter what plan you end up on, I think the key here is back to, you know, Toby's question earlier, is communication. We are going to have to do a great job communicating our ticketing operations to our community and our opponents. And that's where I think it's critical that the DECs reconvene and talk about ticketing, you know, within the district. So that's my input.
Great information, Mike. We appreciate that, you guys, Scott. And so with that, we're going to turn it over to Maria Kennedy in Region 4. She has a very interesting topic that I'm excited to hear about. So I'll turn it over to you, Maria.
Well, I am going to turn it over to my two guys here with our special question that we're going to ask, but I would also like for them to just a few seconds, few minutes, just talk about what they're doing with their summer strength and stuff, and curious to know what their plans are for capacity. You know, Mike alluded briefly about the band and 50% capacity, but if you think about it, this was a conversation I had yesterday because I've been pushing the the live stream and trying to get equipment to set up in all of our stadiums and in our gyms if we are going to be at limited capacity. Is if you're going to allow the experience for the kids to be a primary goal, which I think that's what it is. I mean, the kids need to experience have the whole experience with the band marching and on. How that's going to happen, I couldn't say if we're doing social distancing, but we're going to have to factor all of those band kids and take away a lot of seats, a lot of tickets because of that. But I think we need to keep that in mind and make sure that we do factor that in. And I'm sure most of you have already thought about that, but I know we've just talked about it a little bit, but that was a conversation that I had yesterday with some people that I'm talking to about setting up some of the streaming in our facilities. But I'm going to let Coach Fellows and Coach Peters talk a little bit about what they're doing with their summer stuff. But I want them to, as as our society right now, all across the country, we're having all these riots and all these protests and all on and on. And of course, the NFL and the NBA are all talking about kneeling for the national anthem. And back when Kaepernick first sat or kneeled for the anthem years ago, across the city here in El Paso, we had a few kids that did kneel and whatever, and we addressed all that at that time. But with it at this time, what's going to be different? How are you going to handle it? Maybe in the small communities it's not as it would be in. But Coach Peters and Coach Fellows, what you're going to do to handle if it were to arise in Alpine or in Fort Stockton, or recommendations that you might have. Coach Fellows, I'll let you go first.
Well, thanks for the easy question. I appreciate that. But no, we're one of the schools that has shut down. We shut down for 2 weeks. It was secondary exposure. We did everything like Coach Palmer, and we had the groups, and we actually did nothing inside, everything that we did outside. We had no weight room. We had small groups, no sport specifics. We were trying to do the best we could do to keep our kids safe. Hand washing stations, our maintenance guys built a neat little deal with 4 hand washers on it. We had them all over the field. And, like I said, ours was secondary exposure, maintenance person, which actually is all over the school. Everybody kind of understands that. So we shut it down just for precaution to take care of our kids. And then all of a sudden we go 3 months without a case, period. We had 1 case in the county, which is in Terlingua, which you think Alpine's a long ways from you guys. Terlingua's even further south. 1 case in 3, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're up to over 40 cases. And we're having to deal with that also. So it may have been a blessing in disguise that we kind of shut down for the past 2 weeks. We're supposed to kick back up on the 29th. We're also reevaluating how we did it. I felt like we were doing things the right way. But we're going to get even stricter with our guidelines as far as how we're going to have our workouts. We're going to bring them in. They're going to be in a stationary position, and they're going to do their complete workout from that spot only. And then we're going to move them out, and we're going to do that for a couple of weeks and then see where we can move forward. Trying to get that program going. I think the biggest problem that we're having is across the board is what do we do, or how do we help our kids the other 22 hours of the day? That's a big problem, and I don't have the answer for that. I don't know if anybody else does. Please help me out here. We've got a coach yesterday took his kids up to the park to go run, and he just sent me a text. He said, "Coach, you won't believe it." I said, "What's going on?" Especially with everything that we have going on in this community right now. He goes, we got a little league girls softball up here practicing, no social distancing. So that makes it frustrating for us to try to make sure that we're doing things the right way, and then things like that are happening. And I just think that we're not taking things as serious as we should as a community and as a state and as a United States. I don't know how else to put it. We're selfish at times. It's frustrating. So we talk about being the parents and being the counselors and being this and that for these kids, and that's another thing that's been hard for us, is not having our kids around us. Zoom meetings can only do so much and things like that, and it's tough. It's tough at times, but we're dealing with it. And like I said, I just retweeted something from Coach Shipley this morning, and there was actually on what somebody else had said about being positive and adversity and making it through it, and we're going to make it through it. But the kids need to see something, and I honestly believe that we need the sports in the fall for these kids, but we need to be able to do it safely and have everybody hands in truly to make this thing work. The other thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is we're doing all the social distancing, and we're doing the hand washing, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And then in about a month, we're going to ask these kids to be face to face, so to speak. How do we do that? I think a lot of guys that we have talked to over the past couple of months, we're looking for guidance. We're looking for something definite. Hey, we're not going to have football. Then I think it's something that we can all live with and we can deal with, and we can make a plan to come back when we get ready to come back. We're going to shorten the season. We're going to do this or we're going to do that. And I think that's what a lot of guys out there are struggling with right now, is that there's guidelines, but there's not guidelines. And I've heard on this, everybody's talking about, we're going to get there and then we're going to see and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But we really need some help as an athletic department, as a school, as a community. We need some help with that guidance. And like you said, Coach Meeks, we're a month out, and we don't have those definite guidance to make sure that we're trying to keep everybody safe and doing everything that we need to do. And I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of question marks out there, and I hope we don't leave this meeting with more questions than we showed up with. It's kind of disheartening at times, and I'm just being true, right now. I don't know. I wish I had the answers, but I don't.
Coach Fellows, can you answer or give us your thoughts on what you will do if you have kids that decide they're going to sit for the national anthem? Mike Meeks and I had a conversation a couple of days ago, I think. I don't even know if it was yesterday or the day before, but we talked a little bit about it. That's why we thought, well, we're going to throw this out there. And when Coach Peters has his say, I would like for the others to kind of chime in and see if anybody else has discussed it already.
Yeah. Thank you. I think, I've really never had to address it before because I have been at the smaller schools, even when it started, and never really had a problem, never really had any problems with that. Not really sure why. Maybe it was because we were at a smaller school. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to address it like I do the pink out in October. And my big deal on the pink out in October is I pick a game in our first home game in October, and we have our pink out game. And I tell the boys early enough to say, if you want to buy, your pink gloves and all that stuff, that's fine. But we're gonna do this the right way. We're gonna do this because of what it's for, not because we want to be a fashion, not because we want people to think, to look at us. It's not a me thing. It's a thing that we're trying to support. So I think that's the way I'm going to handle it. And I'm going to just talk to them and make sure, you know, if they want to do it and they want to do it for the right reason and not just because their buddy's doing it, or not just because they want everybody to see them doing it and they don't quite understand it, but we're going to have those conversations, and then they're doing it for the correct reason, then I will support them for that.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Peters, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Maria, and good to see everybody this morning. So we're kind of in the same boat with Coach Fellows on our summer strength. We're on a shutdown currently also, with plans to restart next Monday or the 29th. And, you know, he brought a lot of stuff into play there. You know, ours was also a close contact situation, and it really happened with our the reason for the shutdown was the sport-specific crossover. So we had some people going from single group to multiple things, and now we had a lot of people possibly contaminated. Those tests came back negative, so we were fine there. But in the past week, with Fort Stockton and Alpine, our area here, Big Bend region, has really exploded with some of that. So we decided to stay out another 7 days just to kind of see where all that was going to go. I think that the biggest thing for you guys to understand about where you know, Coach Fellows and myself, we're truly isolated, different than most of everybody else in the state. You know, people can say they're at a big school or a small school. Well, we're truly isolated, and a lot of community stuff is cause for concern because, you know, John is one of my closest friends and rivals in football, and he's 67 miles away. That's as close as it gets out here, you know. So the communities, they kind of the Little League baseball, all of those things, you know, they think that since we're staying inside our town that everything is going to be fine. Well, there's one or two cases, and they're all down at the park practicing sand volleyball. You know, then it gets to where we can't control it at a school. And I'm in that same boat of being frustrated with the fact that, you know, we had all those same regulations in place too, and thought I had a plan until we didn't have a plan. You know, the first time you get the call from the city disaster guy that says, "Hey, look, who do these people have contact with?" Now it's a whole different ball game. You know, so us too, same boat. You know, I've talked to John, you know, a couple times already since all this has happened, and we're going to do the same. We're going to tighten up our restrictions, make our groups even smaller, things like that to see. But I really can't tell you if that's going to be a positive or not, because as soon as they leave me, you know, I'm going to see them walk across the street over here at Rooney Park, and there'll be 50 of them playing 7-on-7 football, and there's not much I can do besides drive by and tell them to quit, you know. So that's kind of where we are with summer strength. I'm you know, earlier the positive quote that's we're trying to be positive with everything too. It's just it's difficult for us. I saw the things about communication, and I think that is key. I think one of the things that we struggle with here is that parent meeting that we talked about where mom and dad do work all day. Well, in a place like Fort Stockton, their life is built around the parent meeting. So, you know, they're on a drilling rig all day long, but they can't wait till 6:30 to get off. They'll drive straight to the school so they can sit in the parent meeting. So when we discuss online things and of that such, then it's a whole different, you know, different situation. They don't want to be a part of that. They want to be up there at the school, and having to tell them no, that's creating a whole nother circumstance for us. So there are just a lot of things we're having to work through. I appreciate being involved in this meeting and things, and I hope that it continues because we do need some help. You know, I like to think that we do a really good job of running our athletic department, but we have some situations that come up that are very unique that lots of different aspects could help us decide the best way for us to go.
Coach Peters, and your thoughts on the national anthem?
Oh, well, you know, same situation. We're kind of in a small town. I did deal with this some at the larger schools. when I came here from Fort Worth. We addressed it back then on that same platform of if we're going to do this, I always explain to our kids that similar to anything we do in a team aspect, if we decide we're going to do this, all 60 of us are going to do it or none of us are going to do it. So we were going to be in that situation. At Fort Stockton, it's a little different here because the procedure of pregame way before me, they play the national anthem while both teams are in the locker room. So we don't have to, that's never going to come up here at a home game. Now at an away game, I can see possibly, but at a home game, part of our pregame is once both teams clear the field, then the band takes the field and plays the national anthem. So I don't see it being a big concern for us at a home game.
Hey, thank you, Coach Peters. That was one of the conversations that Mike and I had a couple of days ago. And one of the thoughts was, at least for football, you could keep the teams in the locker room and alleviate or avoid that situation. But again, if not, then I guess we're all going to have to sit down and talk to our coaches. What are your thoughts?
Right.
And it's easier to do football, but what about volleyball and
Right.
basketball? Those, you don't go send them in the locker room while we play the national anthem. That just doesn't, there's not as much time or the setup of a volleyball or basketball game is not the same. So
No, that's correct.
Those are conversations that I think we're all just going to have with our kids, and like the two coaches have already said. But from some of the others, do you have any thoughts on what you all may do or not do? And then I'm done. Thank you.
Well, I would like to say to the coaches thinking about that, or the ADs, bringing some stuff forward to their coaches. One thing, it was different to me to come to Fort Stockton and have that situation where we were inside the locker room for the national anthem, because that's something that right that first week when you're going through kick the field, you're teaching your kids how we're going to line up and how we're going to do all that stuff. And we didn't have to do that here. But there's a lot of things, if there's any kind of honoring or any of that stuff of community members, or if there's going to be some sort of celebration, when the kids are inside, it makes everything go really smooth on the field. And so when you walk out, you walk in the tunnel and it's basically time to kick off. So it's not a bad thing if y'all decide to go that way. Maria?
Yes.
We had, for the last 4 years during our in-service, we trained our coaches on this, our head coaches, and we told them it was their responsibility to have that discussion, like Mike said, with their teams before the season started. There's two options. We're going to stand at attention, hand over our heart during the national anthem. If anybody doesn't want to do that, then we'll all stay in the locker room or the dressing room. And so we really haven't had that issue, but I'm not sure that's going to be good enough now. And I wish for football at least that it could be written into the DEC pregame that, just like Mike said, that the teams are in the locker room or the national anthem is early enough so that it's done before the teams are out. That way the folks, here in Abilene, we have an Air Force base. And so if our teams are not on the field, we're going to get some pushback. Why are the teams not on the field? It'd be nice to say, that invisible DEC wrote it in that we could not be on the field. So it's just a thought.
Yeah, and we feel the same way with here in El Paso being a big military town. Either way, it's kind of like damned if you do and damned if you don't. So we're going to have to cross that bridge very soon, and those are conversations that I think I'm going to need help from everybody, not just my folks, but from all of you that we're all going to experience some of the same things. So I appreciate your answers. Rusty, I think we're good.
Okay, but I appreciate everybody's involvement today. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask Jeff Gossett. Jeff, are you on with us?
Yeah, I'm on, but my video doesn't work. I ran over my phone about 2 months ago. My video doesn't work, so you can't see me. But I don't know if you can hear me or not.
We could hear you, Jeff. Jeff Gossett is with Paragon Sports Constructors. Again, one of our sponsors. Jeff, I'd like you to take a minute or two before I close this session out, if you would, please. Again, very good sponsor of the THSADA. Jeff?
Thank you, Rusty. Thank you, Rusty. But it's good seeing everybody, good hearing everybody. Can't wait to see everybody in person, and hopefully watch a football game here real soon. I heard y'all talking about 50%, 75%. I hope it could be at least 75%. We're all going crazy right now because there's too many unanswered questions. So, and I know you all job's a lot harder than mine. All I do is sell turf, football fields, baseball fields, softball fields, soccer fields, tennis courts, tracks. It's a lot easier to do than what y'all doing right now, what y'all going through right now. Our guys are real busy right now in the field. We got a lot of jobs going on right now, a lot of football jobs, hopefully getting ready for the football season. Then we'll start our baseball and softball fields this fall. We were looking forward to the Rangers this year because we just put in the Rangers new ballpark and we were going to show it off to all you guys. So we were looking forward to that. If they ever do open again, you'll be getting a call. So until then, good luck to y'all. I know you're all going to make the right decisions. Y'all got a great team to work with each other. And good luck to y'all.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Again, I want to thank everybody today. This is really a good session. This session, we recorded this, and this will end up being on our THSADA website. So you would be able to access this recording in a couple days off of our website. I especially want to thank the AD and head football coaches for being here. You know, y'all got double duty, and what you were talking about was very interesting. You know, you're there, you're with your kids, you're working, and it can be very frustrating. I know I've talked to a number of coaches and ADs around the states, and a lot of programs have shut down. But what's really interesting is I was talking to a coach in Katy the other day, and he said that after 2 weeks, he felt like it was about week 8 of the season. He was worn out, he was tired, and he said, we've only been doing this thing 2 weeks. And he said, so it's really not encouraging to look forward and seeing what we've got ahead of us. So, you know, my congratulations to you, AD head football coaches. That's a tough thing that you're doing, but you really presented some really good information here. And we had up to 57 people on this webinar, which is really good. That is a really good turnout. And so we appreciate everybody's contributions to this. The other thing that I would tell you is, as you head into the fall season, the one thing that you might want to do is, we've got a lot of great resources on our website, particularly for athletic administrators that are looking to create an agenda for their fall staff meetings. You may want to look on our website. We've got a lot of great examples of what athletic directors from around the state do to prepare for those fall coaches meetings. And they are currently sitting on our website. The last thing I would tell you is probably in about, I think it's July 16th, we are going to have another webinar where the UIL is going to be with us. And that could be a real important one, because at that time, hopefully we're going to have a lot more information than what we have right now. So I would encourage you to keep your eye on July 16th. You'll be getting more information from the ADs Association regarding that. So again, I appreciate this session. I appreciate you all being here. Mike, Maria, and Phil, good job today. And again, thank you all, and continue to do what you do, and hopefully things will just get a little bit better going down the road. But there's great information that was shared today. So with that being said, if no one else has anything else, this session is over. Thank you again.
Thank you, Rusty.
Thank you.
Rusty.